just talk to somebody who has actually got a bit of a more sensible attitude to politics and probably to the NHS as well. William Clouston, who is leader of the Social Democratic Party in this country, a smaller party that we don't hear too much about. We've had him on the show before, and he made a lot of sense, so we thought we'd get him back. William, a very good morning to you.
Morning. Thanks very much for having me
Not
back.
at all. Listen, the election is upon us. I suppose I should start by asking you how fully you will be participating in it, how many candidates you're able to put out.
Well, the aim, there's a need for honesty in politics, isn't it? So we're not going to say we're going to win the election or anything like that.
Well, what everybody else is saying, you might as well. Why don't you just say you want to be Prime Minister along with Joe Swinson?
People want a bit of honesty. So our aim was to get representation in every region in Britain, and we should do that. We're looking at about 20 candidates across the country, but it's very, very targeted. And I think it's important, actually, because this is going to be a very, very thoughtful election. It's one of the most important elections we're ever going to have.
I think so. And unfortunately, watching parliamentary processes yesterday and watching Prime Minister's questions, clearly Jeremy Corbyn is going to try not to talk about Brexit, and he's going to prefer to talk about the NHS. And I just find it incredibly disingenuous when I hear words and phrases like, Trump-style trade deals and, the NHS is going to be sold off by the Tories. As I've just read out, there are any number of warnings that we've had about saving the NHS for decades from the Labour Party.
It's a stock response from Labour, but the irony, Mike, is actually that the Labour Party partly marketised the NHS under Blair.
Yeah, of course they did.
I mean, about 5 or 6% was marketised under. And actually, the Social Democrats, we don't agree with that. We don't think the NHS should be marketised, but also we don't think that shock headlines are necessary either. Funny thing is, the NHS is one of the few areas in British politics where there pretty much is a consensus, and it's a social market consensus. The Conservatives do believe in the NHS. Successive governments have supported it, so that it's actually false to say that this gap exists when it doesn't really. And as I say, New Labour were responsible for introducing marketisation just as much as the Tories have. So yeah, you'll hear the same sort of approach. But anything to distract about the main political issue, which is Brexit. And on that, unfortunately, the Labour Party's position is, even to intelligent people, incomprehensible.
Well, it's entirely incomprehensible. Also it changes depending on which member of the Labour Party you talk to.
Yeah. It's absolutely hopeless, and no wonder they don't want to talk about it. But there's quite a lot they don't want to talk about Labour Party. I mean, they won't want to talk about their unappealing mix of identity politics, all the grievance stuff. You combine that with the economic Marxism, and you've got a really, really unappealing mix. And I have to say, I mean, the Social Democrats, we're arguing for, on our usual platforms of democracy, a sort of red and blue policy mix, nation state and social market economy, and also for some social solidarity. All those things are very important. But we believe, actually, this election will be dominated by Brexit. We're putting forward the platform. We're going to go for the Labour heartlands. We're targeting our efforts in very, very strongly Labour-held seats like Leeds Central, outstanding, Jarrow, Tottenham, Cunnan Valley, these places. And really what we're there to do is to offer traditional Labour supporters an alternative that they would find appealing. Basically, it's the alternative they used to have under people like Callaghan and Shaw. Right.
And so you're talking about a sort of traditional left-leaning party rather than the very far left party that Jeremy Corbyn's in charge of, and less of a centrist kind of left party that Tony Blair ran.
Yeah, no, I think our economic programme is to the left of New Labour. Yeah, but it's very
well. To be honest, George Osborne was to the left of New Labour. Yeah, it's very confusing.
Exactly. No, it is quite confusing. There's been a lot of cross-dressing. But I think the patriotic Labour supporters, traditional Labour supporters, would look at our programme, railway nationalisation, more money for the health service, bit of council house spending, but within a social market context. The state and the market are not opponents. And the trouble is, you've got two parties that for years and years have backed one or the other. And it's ended up in a mess, frankly. I mean, we haven't been well governed.
No, we have not been well governed for quite some time, and we are in the position that we are in because of bad governance, in my view. And when you say this is a very important election, I think you're absolutely right. But so the places you've chosen to fight are very much Labour heartlands, yeah? Yeah,
they are. Yeah, that's right. I mean, and the broader picture, again, I think we should be honest about this. And the Brexit Party will work out what they're going to do. But, the most important, the safest option in this election is to have a Johnson majority and get Brexit done. And that's just, I mean, we say that as Social Democrats. You know, we're putting our own candidates up and we're fighting, obviously, Conservatives and Labour in those seats. But let's be sensible. Look at the alternative. If Johnson doesn't get a majority, you won't get Brexit. So you'll have more of this chaos.
Yeah. And there are so many people. And what do you make of this, by the way, William? Because there are more and more people now in Parliament. Many of them won't be there, hopefully, when they return from this election. But more and more people in this Parliament whose main kind of principle seems to be just to block Brexit. And we've now got the Lib Dems openly saying, we don't want Brexit to happen. We want to stop Brexit. Now, in sort of days gone by, that would have been such an undemocratic thing to say that nobody would say it.
Absolutely appalling. And what I resent is the Lib Dems being described as, in some house, moderate or centrist. That's not a centrist position.
No,
that's not. I mean, the SDP's programme is centrist if you blend it, because we, on the social side and the cultural side, we're quite socially conservative. But there's no way on earth you can describe the Lib Dems' position as moderate.
No, no, it's extreme.
It is an extreme position. There'd be so much. I mean, the terms used are literally being degraded. But in this election, Mike, I just want to say one thing on the sort of riskier side.
Yeah.
The real risk of this election is that Corbyn does something that he did last time and gets some sort of breakthrough, and you end up with some sort of Corbyn SNP type government. That would be absolutely a disaster.
Yes. For the country. So you'd have a Prime Minister effectively who hated his own country and who didn't want to be in any way aligned with the United States of America. He's made that very clear. Being supported by a bunch of MPs who actually are in a place they don't want to be.
Yeah, separatists. Yeah. But it's the economics. The economics. I mean, all the social stuff and all the Islington preoccupation are all a problem. But it's the economics. You have an avowed Marxist as a Chancellor of the Exchequer in McDonnell.
Yeah.
And you just look at their friends. Look at Venezuelan. All this stuff starts off with the brotherhood of man. Yeah. And it ends up with people having to eat their own pets.
Yeah. I know.
That's the problem with it.
It's absolutely horrendous.
And it is horrendous. And I think the British people are thoughtful. And overall, I think the result, could be a positive one. But we've got to think about it. Think about the risks. And the risks, they're not proportionate. Johnson isn't our cup of tea in many respects. But that's a far safer option overall than.
But considering the way that those on the opposite side of the benches call him a liar, he's one of the most honest politicians that's ever sat in Parliament, because he's actually done what he said he would do. No, you
never know what you're going to get. I mean, one of the problems with politics is you never know what you're going to get. The public puts its best foot forward and votes for people. I mean, Heath lied through his teeth in the 1970 election. You don't know what you get, but actually, we'll wait and see with Johnson. But it's certainly the less risky option, and far less risky option. And Brexit's got to be done. The sooner we put this behind us, the better. I think people are. I mean, the public in general don't like division. We're fed up with it, and people are crying out for a bit of solidarity. And I think put Brexit behind us, get it done. I think we'll get it. We'll have a better situation in the 2020s.
And realistically, William, can you disrupt any of the sort of the candidates where you're standing? I mean, what sort of a hope do you have for that?
Look, as I say, we've been very careful. We don't want to harm the Brexit cause, and I'll just be honest about that. Right. So we've been very careful about where we're standing. They are Labour heartlands, and they've got a huge majority. So you've got to be realistic. But places like Leeds, we've got a great team in Leeds. We had a wonderful conference in Leeds recently. Got a good grassroots team, and I'll be up against Hilary Benn there.
Okay.
And by the way, the conference was fantastic. We had Rod Diddle speak, Brendan O'Neill came along, Ben Cobley. Worth having a look on YouTube at the speeches. Cracking conference. So we'll do what we can. I mean, as I say, I'm not going to. I think there is a call for honesty in politics. I'm not going to. I lead quite a small party, but we're growing. Memberships are well into the thousands now, and we've got a program which basically sits on top of the political views of about half the country. It will take time. We'll do our best.
Yes, absolutely right. What do you make of Jewish Labour, the organisation behind the Jewish side of the Labour Party movement, announcing for the first time that they will not campaign for Jeremy Corbyn? First time in 100 years.
Well, good on them. I mean, why should I sympathise with them. And what do you do? It should never have happened. And a lot of things in politics shouldn't have happened. I mean, Corbyn should not be leader of the Labour Party.
Yeah.
Not a million years.
No,
it should never have happened.
Well, half the people in the Labour Party don't think he should be leader of the Labour Party.
I know. And the strange thing is, if he did actually win, his government would fall apart because half the PLP would break off. So it's nonsense. I sympathise with Jewish Labour. What do you do? You've got to fight this stuff.
Absolutely right. William, good luck in the elections. Thank you very much for talking to us. We'll perhaps talk to you again through the course of the campaigns. William Clouston there, leader of the Social Democratic Party in this country, which is pro-Brexit, but also pro the working man, and also left-leaning from New Labour's point of view, but right-leaning from the Corbynista point of view. Fascinating party.